All right, let's jump right in. When you hear the word ambush, you probably picture a pretty simple surprise attack, right? But what we're going to explore is how it's actually one of the most sophisticated, most calculated art forms in the entire history of conflict. It's really all about strategy, psychology, and just pure brilliant deception.
And this quote, it absolutely gets to the heart of it. See, the most decisive battles aren't always won with brute force. Nope. They're won inside the enemy commander's head by completely shattering their version of reality. And the ambush, well, that's the ultimate expression of that idea.
So what is an ambush, really? It's so much more than just hiding and attacking. It's the deliberate creation of what experts call cognitive dissonance. The goal is basically to make the enemy's brain just freeze, to create a situation so jarringly different from what they expect that their entire plan, their entire command structure just shatters in an instant.
Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a magic trick. A con, really. There's a setup, right? A moment of misdirection where you get the audience, your enemy, to look one way, and then bam, the shocking reveal. The whole point is to control what they see and what they think, leading them exactly where you want them. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down exactly how that trick is performed.
First things first, we've got to understand the vulnerabilities that the magician, or, the commander, is trying to exploit. A truly great ambush isn't just a physical assault, it's a targeted, surgical hack on the enemy's entire decision-making process.
So the first target is to create that cognitive dissonance we talked about. Just imagine this. You're a commander, you've been told the road ahead is totally clear. Suddenly, your entire column is erupting in fire from a forest you were assured was empty. That violent clash between what you expect and what is actually happening, it causes confusion, hesitation, paralysis. And that's the first crack in their ability to fight back.
Next, the ambusher triggers what's called cognitive overload. It's not just one thing going wrong, it's everything, all at once. It's explosions over here, gunfire from multiple directions you can't pinpoint, your radio just exploding with panicked voices. That sheer volume of chaotic information literally short-circuits the command structure. It becomes impossible to think clearly, let alone make a rational plan.
And this is where that classic term, the fog of war, comes into play. Look, every battlefield is confusing by nature. But the ambusher's job is to deliberately thicken that fog for their opponent, to turn that normal uncertainty into blinding, paralyzing chaos. And that's what leads the enemy to make critical and often fatal mistakes.
And all of this leads to the fourth psychological target. Because beyond these cognitive tricks, a successful ambush attacks something far more primal. It weaponizes fear itself. The sheer shock of the attack is designed to trigger a wave of panic that spreads through the ranks like a virus, shattering a unit's cohesion and turning disciplined soldiers into a disorganized, terrified crowd.
Okay, so we get the why. We understand the psychological weak spots they're aiming for. But what about the how? How do commanders actually pull this off? Well, let's open up the Deceiver's toolkit and see the practical how-to of crafting the perfect trap.
A master of this art combines 4 key ingredients. First up is place, using the terrain itself, hills, forests, urban canyons, to hide your forces or to funnel the enemy right into your trap. Second, you've got time, striking when they are least alert, like at dawn, during a shift change, or in terrible weather. Third is power, creating an illusion, making your force look way weaker or maybe even much stronger than it really is. And finally, purpose, hiding what you're really trying to do behind a fake attack or some other kind of diversion.
And this toolkit gives you a whole range of specific plays, right? You have simple concealment, feints to draw enemies away from where you're really going to strike, and the classic bait and switch, where you offer up a juicy, tempting target that's actually just bait to lure them into your kill zone. But a particularly brilliant one is the illusion of weakness, which we're going to see in action in just a minute.
Okay, the theory is great, but let's see how the masters actually put it all together. We're going to look at some of the most famous and most brilliant ambushes in all of history.
What's absolutely wild is how this art form has stayed relevant for more than 2,000 years. I mean, think about it. From the ancient world of swords and shields at Cannae, to the longbows and mud of Agincourt, all the way to the massive aircraft carriers of World War II at Midway. The weapons change, the technology changes, but the core principles of deception, they stay exactly the same.
Let's start with Cannae. So you've got Hannibal facing a much, much larger Roman army that he knew was aggressive and, frankly, a little predictable. He used their own confidence against them. This is that illusion of weakness we talked about. He had his center line deliberately fall back, making it look like they were collapsing. The Romans, thinking, aha, we're winning, charged straight into the trap. That's when Hannibal's hidden forces slammed in from the sides like a closing door, completely surrounding and annihilating them. The big lesson from Cannae isn't just about flanking, it's that your enemy's overconfidence is the most powerful bait you can possibly use.
Now let's jump forward, way forward, over 2,000 years to the Battle of Midway. Here, the battlefield is the vast Pacific Ocean, and the ultimate ambush weapon wasn't a hidden legion, it was hidden information. The Japanese Navy was planning their own massive surprise attack, but they had no idea that American codebreakers knew every single detail of their plan. So what did the US Navy do? They set a counter-ambush. They lay in wait, pretending they were somewhere else entirely, and when the Japanese fleet was at its most vulnerable, with planes refueling on deck, they struck. Midway teaches us that in modern war, the deadliest ambush can be sprung by intelligence, turning the enemy's own secret plan into the bait for their own destruction.
But, and this is really important to understand, as brilliant and effective as these tactics are, deception is a double-edged sword. It's a powerful art form for sure, but it comes with enormous risks and some very, very heavy ethical questions.
You have to see it for what it is. Planning an ambush is the ultimate gamble. If you get it right, a smaller, weaker force can defeat a much larger one, saving countless lives on its own side. But if you get it wrong, if your intelligence is bad, if your timing is off, if the enemy doesn't take the bait, the trap fails, and now the ambusher is the one who's exposed, surrounded, and destroyed. The stakes just could not be higher.
And then, of course, there are the ethics. Deception has always been an accepted part of warfare, but it absolutely operates in a moral gray area. For an ambush to be considered legitimate, for example, it has to distinguish between combatants and civilians, and it has to be proportional. The military gain has to justify the level of destruction. It is a constant and incredibly complex balancing act for any commander.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? I think it's this. The art of the ambush proves that victory isn't always about having the most soldiers or the biggest bombs. It's about outthinking, outplanning, and outmaneuvering your opponent. The battlefield isn't just a physical space. It's a theater of the mind, where psychology and perception can be more powerful than any weapon ever invented.
And that leaves us with a fascinating and very urgent question for our own time. In a world of satellites that can read a license plate from space, always-on drones, and constant digital surveillance, can true surprise even exist anymore? Has the ancient art of the ambush finally met its match? Or will deception just evolve once again, finding new, digital ways to hack the mind in the 21st century? It's definitely something to think about.